Welcome to Confirmation Bias, presented by the League Ambassadors.
I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken, and the sports cupboard is getting a little bare. I just got through watching grown men play flag football on TV, and that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Ambassador Junior Blue, and the Atlanta Hawks need to be relegated to the G League, and that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Ambassador Dad, and in exactly 2 weeks from today, the Baltimore Ravens will play the Chicago Bears in the Hall of Fame game. Football is back, folks, and that's my confirmation bias.
And I'm Ambassador Chef Curry. For any pro athlete out there looking to revamp their public image, my advice to you is to get yourself a black woman and watch the results pay off. And if you need proof, just look at Russell Wilson. And that's my confirmation bias.
Welcome to Confirmation Bias, hosted by the League Ambassadors. As a reminder, please check us out across all social media platforms on our handle at The League AM, as well as our website, theleagueam.com, where you can find all of our content, our flagship podcast for the NFL, which is 32 Kings Road, as well as our Blogspot Diplomatic Immunity, where you, the fan, can spit your hot fires and drop your bars as it pertains to the world of sports. For those of you who are watching us on Facebook Live at the moment, please remember to share the feed and to send us any questions or comments so we can attempt to address them at the end of our show in our segment, Diplomatic Immunity. And please download and subscribe to our podcast, Confirmation Bias and 32 Kings Road. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, most importantly, under the banner League Ambassadors. This is episode 64 of Confirmation Bias for our second season. We're going to have a fun show today. We will discuss the major trades that occurred today in the NBA. But first, we have actually reached the halfway point in the baseball season. So we'll dive into what we think has occurred so far and try to make some projections. So let's get right into it. First half of the Major League Baseball season, who do we think the first half MVP is for each league? So I'll start with you, Ambassador Junior Blue. Who do you think is the first half MVP for the American League?
Does Mike Trout count? Or can we just put him to the side and pick somebody else?
It's like the Shaq days. Where
Come on now. He's the best player in baseball.
He's the best player. I don't know if he's the MVP, but do you have him?
I took him out and put Mookie Betts in.
Okay.
I took him out and put Mookie Betts in. But, I mean, even if you look at the numbers, Trout's numbers are better. But, hey, Boston got the best record in the league. Most wins at halftime ever.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of struggle with that as well. Again, it can't be stated enough by us and by anyone. Mike Trout is absolutely...
He's killing it.
He's killing it. Like, we're going to look back and be able to, say, like, we actually watched one of the greatest baseball players ever play in his prime, like someone on that level. But, yeah, I mean, I also had Mookie Betts. He is actually tied with Trout and Jose Ramirez for wins above replacement, but he's played in 16 fewer games. He leads the majors in batting average, in slugging percentage, and on base percentage, and some other sabermetric called runs created, which I don't even know what that means. But and then also, defensively, he's been outstanding. So, for me, I mean, Mike Trout is great and he is very valuable. But how valuable can you be? I think
if you're fourth place in
your division, I think that if his stats were far and away from everyone else,
Yeah.
then you would
Yeah,
say
it
he's
would
the
be.
MVP.
Right. Kev, do you have anyone different?
I don't. I think it's the same argument we make with basketball. And of course, Mike Trout is the best player when we look at how we compare LeBron. Every year, he just does something outrageous. But I think most valuable, we're going to look at best player, best team, and what he means to what Boston's doing. I think it's Mookie Betts. But it's almost, I think we'd be doing Trout an injustice to not give him the award given the season that he's had. So it'll be interesting to see how MLB kind of hashes that out, given a guy who's having a retarded season, but then a guy who's contributing to his team being the best team in baseball.
Does JD Martinez take away from?
Well, that's what my argument is. I actually, at the halfway
Split the
point,
vote.
I have JD Martinez because if you look at it, again,
I'm a psychic.
he's on the best team in baseball. He's third in average, number one in home runs, top 5 in runs, top 5 in hits. The knock on him is going to be it has almost never happened that an MVP came from the DH position.
Right.
So, but if you look at their accomplishments, he's right there with him. But he also leads the league in home runs.
And and it's funny because what Boston actually lacked last season was that pop in the middle of the lineup. And for him to come in as a free agent in a major market like Boston, where there is an expectation of them to win the World Series every year, and for him to be mashing the way that he is, that's a real point. I did give him some thought, actually, but I mean, Mookie's been really good. He's a
Why
good
did
baseball
nobody
player.
want to sign JD Martinez? It took a while for him to go to Boston.
There were a few players like that. I think money had something to do with it. There weren't many teams that had the money available to really spend for a JD Martinez.
Yeah. So moving into the National League, I myself at the halfway point, this is uber interesting to me because I think the field is super wide open. National League is way down, as we talked about a few times. And there's a lot of buzz about a specific pitcher getting a nod for the MVP. I personally am okay with pitchers getting a nod, but it has to be an all-time dominant performance.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are on DeGrom, but he's only 5-4.
That ERA is sick, though.
ERA is
1.68.
absolutely sick. So, but I think you should give credence to the one of the best players on the best team in the conference or the league, which is Javier Baez. And it ends with that. I mean, no one else is standing out. Best team right now in that league, it's got to be him for me.
I actually had Colorado's Arenado.
Nolan Arenado.
No,
Good baseball player.
because he's one of the best defensive third basemen ever to ever play the game. And on top of that, he's like top 6 in all offensive categories. I mean, that combination right there is showing you he should get some votes.
My vote was this was less about stats and not even being a homer, but it's just, to me, it's facts. If Matt Kemp doesn't come out of the grave, we are still.
It was a joke for a little bit, but it became for real.
Right? So, I mean, and his numbers are pretty good. He was an all-star, but it's just, I mean, because everybody, Justin Turner got hurt. Bellinger started out really slow. Peterson wasn't even playing. Puig started out slow. Seager got hurt. And Matt Kemp, it was like he wasn't even supposed to be on the team. And
he's supposed to be cutting.
And then as guys started to come around, that's when our records started to get better. So for me, in the first half, Matt Kemp, is my National League MVP.
Yeah, I'd love to see DeGrom win it. Like the point that Devin made, a pitcher hasn't done it since 2014, hasn't won MVP. But I guess a dark horse for this conversation would be the Braves' Freddie Freeman. Yeah. He's batting, 315, and he's leading a young Braves team to a playoff spot.
Who are not supposed to be there right now.
Yeah, right, exactly. The team is not even supposed to be there right now. He's balling out. So I think he's definitely a name to consider. But to see a pitcher do it, I think would be pretty cool.
I think Freddie Freeman's leading the league in intentional walks, which tells you
they're
trying to stay away.
Which means when he gets his shot, he makes it happen.
Yeah.
So for the two leagues, the two best teams at this point right now are the Boston Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs. Let's start this time with the National League. For the Cubs not to be successful, what's their kryptonite, Kev?
The Cubs. You know what I would say? No, my thought. I wouldn't say
So much for pre-show prep.
I wouldn't listen. I wouldn't say it's a kryptonite, but since you two Dodger fans got jokes, I would say if when Yu Darvish comes back, if they rely on him,
Yes, good one.
if they rely on him in a way that y'all Dodgers did last year, and he doesn't come through, they paying this motherfucker $126 million. If he don't
To be under
fill out
500.
that role on the back end of the season,
With the
that's a
5
lost
ERA.
cause.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off of that, their kryptonite is every pitcher other than
Yep.
John Lester.
Exactly.
And I mean, everybody's, and the thing is thinking back to last year, which is why I was never scared of the Cubs last season. It was like, you know, if you're depending on guys named Kyle Hendricks and Tyler Chatwood, like those guys are not going to do it. And then they traded for Quintana, which at the All-Star break last year, and he played okay, but Jose Quintana, for the entirety of his career, has been an up and down pitcher. So he's merely being who he is. Then they went out and paid for Yu Darvish, and it wasn't even so much about, you know, the regular season, but what I saw from Yu Darvish last year was that when the games really mattered,
He didn't want it.
and if you're accused of being accused of tipping pitches
And still get that bread.
and still get the bread, it's crazy to me.
But in the Cubs' defense, though, they won 54, 55 games
55,
without their pitching staff being attacked. So if they can somehow keep a core together the second half, they'd be dangerous.
Their kryptonite to me was their pitching also. I mean, their starters are have a 4 ERA basically. I mean, you go into the playoffs with that and face a lineup like the Dodgers have, or if the Nationals make it, the Nationals have. You're not going to win.
And I mean, everybody's got about 50 something wins. All the division leaders in the National League really do. So
I'm going to keep it in the same vein as pitching, but specifically, they lead the majors in walks. And the only other team around them is a team that's one of the worst teams in the league. So if you get into the playoffs and you're walking that much and runs are hard to come by and hits are hard to come by, it could come back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
Moving to Boston, Junior Blue, what's their kryptonite?
How does Chris Sale and David Price pitch in the playoffs? If they do like they've done the last couple years, it's a wrap.
For me, it's pitching of any kind. Who's their number 2 starter? Because Price is trash.
he is trash.
Sale is a beast.
And a basket case, by the way. We don't talk enough about that. I don't think the media talks enough about it, but David Price is a weirdo, a Class A weirdo. Yeah. And Boston is regretting that deal for sure.
Oh, 100% right now. So if you have question marks after your number 1 pitcher, which is kind of foreshadowing for later, and then your bullpen is kind of iffy, it doesn't matter how hard or how good you're hitting the ball. So it's going to come back to bite them in the ass at some point. They got to do something. Kev, do you have anything to add to them?
Well, the fact that I agree with what Les said, and to add to Kenyon's point, he's like baseball's Kawhi Leonard in a sense. It's like, you just don't know enough yet to put him in that stratosphere.
I think Boston's kryptonite is actually the Houston Astros. They got dominated last year in the playoffs by the Astros, and those bats haven't gone anywhere. And in fact, in the regular season, this season, even going back to last season, this group of Houston Astros, they have dominated Boston. And I think that if they were to meet in the playoffs, the story would be the same. So if they can if someone else can deal with the Astros, then I think Boston is, pardon the pun, smooth sailing. But yeah, I think the Astros are their kryptonite.
All right, so who actually do you think are the division leaders most likely to fall off? I know Kenyon, me, you, and Les pretty much had the same team, and it's the Phillies. So, Les, why do you think it's the Phillies?
Because I don't think they're a good team. Their manager has issues. They literally have a point differential of 18. That is 60 less than any other division leader.
Right.
They're not a good team.
Yeah, they're young, and as the games start to matter, that's going to come into play. They have one of the worst defenses in baseball, which is also huge. And then, like you mentioned, Gabe Kapler, who's, he's turned it around a bit, but, part of his appeal is that he's an outside the box thinker, but he goes way outside of the box. So again, when we get down into the dog days of August, getting into September when the games matter, you have a really young team with a really bad defense, with a manager who tries to do too much in his first year. It's set up for them to get hawked.
For me, that's a recipe for this. I mean, the young team, they struggle on the road. They only have a half game lead on the Braves, a 5-game lead on the Nats, who, in my personal opinion, should be winning this division on paper.
Right.
So it's like Kenyon mentioned, it's the perfect recipe for the second half of the season for Philly to take that slide.
Yeah, like you said, they're only a half game up. Their batting average for me is an anomaly. They're batting .236 as a team, which I believe is 26th in the league. And the team that's a half game behind them is Atlanta, who's batting .258, who's up in the higher portion of batting average. And they play each other the last 3 games in the last series of the season, so that should be definitely an interesting series to look out for. Now, what is the team most likely to make a second half run? We know who the contenders are. We know who the leaders are. But, baseball is one of those leagues or the MLB is one of those leagues where it's always the hot team that gets hot at the right time. Got they picked up that halfway through the season trade that fit perfectly. Kevron, I'll start with you.
Well, I just mentioned it. I think it's the Nationals. Because, again, on paper, they should be a lot better than what they are. They're playing like 500 baseball now. And I personally think that the home run derby success that Bryce Harper had is going to be like a shot in the arm for him.
I hope so. He's batting .214.
For real.
And I did not mean that literally. But yeah, he's batting .214, .215. He's got like a 25% strikeout rate. But plus, when Strasburg comes back, if he can stay healthy for once, I think that could probably get them going. But it's got to be this year, or it's never going to happen.
What do you think this season is doing for his free agency? Bryce Harper.
For Harper?
Yeah, for Bryce Harper.
The second half of this season is going to tell. I mean, I think the pressure, I look at him and Manny Machado in similar ways because Machado's, of course, due for a contract. But in the way that they're playing, Machado's on a terrible team, but was on a terrible team. Damn, that hurt to say that. But he's balling out. Harper, it almost seems like the moment the pressure was too much for him. But then performing how he did the other night, I pray for his sake that's what turns the tide for him, because he is a great player in this league, and I think he's going to earn a big payday, whether it's in D.C. or not.
Yeah, I mean, the Nats for the National League was the exact team I had, and spot on. I'm with you, Kevin. I think that, he does get a boost. I think comparing, it was interesting you went with the Manny parallel with Bryce Harper. I just think Manny's a better baseball player. He's got a more fundamentally sound swing. I think when and this is true, I think, of any sport, but when you are not technically sound, and when you start to add in outside pressures, whatever they may be, and in his case, he's definitely playing for supposedly a $300 million contract, which I, by the way, don't think he's going to get. The holes in his swing. We've got a couple of guys on the Dodgers that have the same sort of issue. Jock Peterson, I always want to say Clay. It's Cody Bellinger. Same thing.
When push comes to shove, you always fall back on your fundamentals.
Exactly.
And if you don't have them.
Exactly. Juan Soto, though, also rookie for the Nationals, probably going to be rookie of the year. He is a star. So, yeah, I'm with you, Kev, the Nats.
I'm surprised you guys didn't mention the obvious, the Dodgers, with this. I mean, this is a very short-term fix, obviously. Maybe it could be a long-term thing. Who knows? But
not the way the execs sound. They're like, we're worried about this year.
So no one thought that was a big plus, adding him to that lineup.
No, I mean, I think listen. We have 10 guys that are gonna hit double-digit home runs. Probably 7 that will hit 20. Offensively, what Manny is going to bring, he's just going to, I mean, he's insurance. He is for the playoffs, and I also think he's insurance in the event that if our pitching starts to waver, because our starters have been, no one is blowing the table away, but our starters have been, they're doing the needful, as Devin would say. They're getting the job done. And in the event, we know who really said it. In the event that there's some slippage there, having a big bat like Manny in the middle, I think, we'll be winning high scoring games.
Ross Stripling has been our best pitcher.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In the AL, I actually have, if it's not the Sox, then it's the Astros, barring any injuries. I think they got the taste of success last year. They came out the gate smoking. They roll all year. I think they won the ship. They kind of see what it's like, and I think they're kind of doing what Golden State was doing. And they're kind of like, oh, we're good. Let Boston get all that shine. And I think come late August, they just going to turn it up.
Them boys, man, they won the All-Star game for themselves for sure.
Do you have any other teams in the American League?
I actually picked Cleveland. And the
Because
reason
the division?
Yeah, their division is so weak, and they've been coasting for the whole season. I feel like just like last year, come the dog days, them Septembers, the early Septembers, late August, they're going to pick it up and start killing the bad teams that's in their division and start actually getting on a run, and we'll enter into the playoffs hot.
You forget that they were in the World Series in extra innings like 2 years ago.
To win it.
Yeah.
Game 7.
Game 7, yeah.
The Oakland A's, I'm calling it now. Watch out for
how far are they down, though?
They're only 5 games, not even 5.
They're third, right?
They're third in the American League West. I think they're 3 games actually behind Seattle. Here's the deal. Defense, they are one of the best. They've had the largest improvement defensively. They were one of the worst last year. They're now, I think, 13th in defense. Matt Chapman, their third baseman, is an outstanding ball player. They also, like the Dodgers, they've got 7 different guys that have double-digit home runs already. They are what you would think the Phillies should be. The only thing the Phillies are missing is they're missing some veteran players, but they've got guys like Jed Lowry, Chris Davis, guys that have been there, that have played in meaningful games. And then the biggest thing is they're 15-8 in 1-run contests, so they're winning the close games. And I think the reason why they catch Seattle and get that second spot is because coming down the stretch, Seattle has to play the Astros 13 times. Oakland only has to play Houston 6 times. So they're the team that I think will make a run here in the second half is the A's.
Kev, did you have a team for American League aside from what we mentioned?
Well, Ken brought up Seattle. I thought they were a team worth mentioning. They kind of stumbled into the All-Star break. But again, I think they hold Oakland off. And again, it hurts to see Nelson Cruz, another Oriole, playing lights out for another team. But no, I think their season is definitely going under the radar. They're only 5 games behind Houston. But I just don't think they have enough in the second half of the season to make a run. So I think the American League stands pat.
Okay. So our next question, and I'll start it off, is which contender has the biggest need? And for me, I think the way things have shaped up, and I'd like to bring this to the guys too, because I'm sure you're going to have something to chime in with, but mine is the Dodgers. Overall pitching is good. I mean, if you look at stats, ERA is great, walks are great, earned runs are great. But the biggest question I have is, put a gun to your head. Is Clayton Kershaw a playoff game 1 pitcher right now?
He gonna have to be.
I'm about to say he is.
He is. I mean,
Ain't no choice.
Yeah, I think in the playoffs he will be what he's been the last couple of years, which is a 6-inning guy. I think he's a 6-inning guy. He's not the intimidating factor. The intimidation factor for hitters is gone with him, and that scares me a little bit. He's gonna pitch good. But
so the pitching is the biggest need for you guys.
I think that 6th through 8th inning is our biggest issue.
So the bullpen.
Because guns ahead, I don't know which one of my relievers I trust.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pitching, but it's not with the Dodgers. Actually, I think it's with the Yankees. If the Yankees can get a second bona fide starting pitcher, they can actually because they're the one team, they can go stroke for stroke with the Houston Astros. They got and it's proven they got the big bats. But outside of Severino, who we're going to get to this, they don't have any. CC Sabathia is who they got, and he's doing the old man baseball run right now, and that's not going to last very long. Sonny Gray's got to step it up, or they've got to get a second starter somewhere.
Kevron?
Hey, listen, I've truly enjoyed listening to Dodger fans be critical of their own team. We don't get that much on this show. So. If you got anything else to add,
All right, so let's move on, and we're going to do this the next couple ones in rapid fashion. World Series prediction. Kev.
I hate to say it. I have difficult reasons for this, but I'm going Red Sox, Dodgers, and it's not going to be rapid fashion because I got reasons. Only because I would like to see Manny win, not only win, but beat an American League East team. But then at the same time, I don't want the Dodgers to go because if they win the World Series, you two motherfuckers are going to be insufferable.
That is correct.
But then if they lose back-to-back World Series, then you, Les, and Omar might kill yourselves. So I'm in a bad spot, but I would say I think Red Sox Dodgers. I'd like to see that.
Ken.
Rematch.
Run it back.
Yeah.
Run it back. Same thing for MVP, American League. Les.
Cy Young.
Oh no, no, that was the first half. We actually have a full season MVP.
Full season. Oh, I still have the same thing. I have Trout.
Kenyon?
I think Mookie Betts.
You kept it the same?
Yeah.
Kev?
I think it's the Russell Westbrook factor. I think they'll give it to Mike Trout.
Okay. I actually went with Betts, even though I went with JD Martinez. I have bias same. Kept it the same.
I think, yeah.
Kept it the same.
I think same, because the only reason why I went off of Matt Kemp is because obviously the Manny effect is going to be there, so then that's going to negate some of it. And Javier Baez is he's the best player on the best team. He's having a hell of a season.
Kev, did you differ?
For National League, I think DeGrom's going to win it. Pitcher, first time in 4 years.
So do you also have him as the as a Cy Young winner?
I do indeed.
So double dip.
American League Cy Young, Max Scherzer. He's tied for the league lead in wins. I think, as you know, with Kevin, the Nats are going to make a second half run. I think Scherzer's going to be a huge part of that.
Les?
I have DeGrom for National League.
And
Sale.
Yep. I have Sale and I have DeGrom, just because the fact that over Scherzer, he has half the home runs that Scherzer's given up and half the runs. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get into hot topics now. That was a good job, fellas, on the baseball shit that we haven't talked about all year.
It's crazy. I mean, you know, here's the thing about baseball, man, and I couldn't figure out a way to say it with my confirmation bias, but baseball's really in trouble when you're already just conventional wisdom. All right, it's not a popular game. They're not reaching young people, and it's a long ass season to begin with. And here we are, not even at the halfway point, even for about a month now. The American League is done. Okay, and the National League, it's a 2-team race. That's not good. The product.
I told you the solution. All the superstars need to date sisters. Baseball be back.
Grab it less quick.
On to the hottest topics. The last couple of days, the NBA has had two major trades. First, we had Kawhi getting traded to Toronto. It was Kawhi, Danny Green for DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and top 20 protected pick. Right? So Kawhi in Toronto, how's that gonna work?
If Kawhi wants to play, I like it for both teams actually.
So
if he's gonna play,
he's gonna play.
Yeah, okay, so he has to play.
He has to play.
If he's gonna play, I like it for both.
Because you
teams.
delay free agency if you don't.
Yeah. So I think for Kawhi, it's something different. It's in the East now. Him and Lowry, you know, they could mesh well. We had to break up that Lowry DeRozan. DeRozan will make the Spurs better because they weren't that good last year, and he will actually have a really good coach behind him. So I like it for both teams.
Where does Toronto end up this year?
They could be, with this move, I think they're favored to get the 3 seed.
So they don't knock out Philly or Boston?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the unknown here's the thing. You fired your best coach, who was also the best coach. Right, and he was also the best coach of the NBA, according to peers and the media last season. So that's really the unknown, because if Dwayne Casey's there, you look at what Toronto did and you say, hey, they were the number 1 seed last year, and they just added top 5 player. They're going to be better. So that's the unknown. I think, again, the Spurs were their hand was forced. They had to trade him. They traded him to Toronto. I think the biggest takeaway for me was that teams weren't really offering San Antonio nothing, because that is a terrible deal for them to, DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl, and it's a protected first round pick that, is going to turn into 2 second-round picks most likely. Like, yeah.
Well, for Toronto, I think on paper this is an upgrade because, like Devin said, we saw the best of Mr. DeRozan and Mr. Lowry and where that gets you, given LeBron James is in that conference. But I think I think Kawhi's an upgrade from DeRozan, but then you add Danny Green, who has championship experience, and you put them in the Eastern Conference where we're assuming Boston's going to be legit. We assume Philly's going to take that next step, but this is a team that was the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, and they got rid of the face of their franchise, which I think could be the only downside on this. Aside from Kawhi leaving next year, I think you getting rid of the face of your franchise after you fired the best coach in history, I think that could cause chemistry issues for guys like Lowry, who was damn near best friends with DeRozan, and it's hard for those guys to commit and to really trust in the franchise when you make a move like that. Now with San Antonio, I like the move for them because they added a playmaker, something they didn't have last year, and you bring DeRozan in with guys like Aldridge, Gasol, Ginobili, the kid Murray, Rudy Gay. I mean, this team is deep. This team is deep. They go from
you just named a combined total of 94-year-old dudes and Gasol and Ginobili
that have been getting to the playoffs for the last 21 years.
Right.
All I'm saying is San Antonio avoided that slide that we all thought was going to happen with them in the Western Conference, especially with the Lakers making their moves. San Antonio could be a top 3-4 team in the West this year.
Okay, and another trade, Melo got traded from OKC. He went for Dennis Schroeder and Mike Muscala. And Carmelo will be released, and everyone thinks he'll end up in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's a good move. I think that's probably the best fit. Although, so they said that he met with both Houston and Miami in Las Vegas. And if Melo still thinks that he is
the man,
I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Miami. They need an ISO scorer, a guy you can run your offense through with Eric Spoelstra, and coming out of an East that is perceived to be as weaker, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
I think those are probably two of the best fits for Melo. With Miami, the points that you made, I think at least he'll be in the playoffs. But Houston, I think it's a good fit because, of course, the relationship he has with Chris Paul. But the one thing that Houston is missing offensively is someone that you can dump the ball down to give you easy buckets. And I think Melo's presence is enhanced if they keep Clint Capella, because Melo is known to play better when he's not the biggest guy in the post. You see him when he's with Tyson Chandler. And he has a rim runner that can you don't necessarily have to give him the ball down in the post, but he can run the rim and create off pick and roll. So I hope Melo goes somewhere where he can still be one of the guys, because he's not the guy.
What are they doing with Clint Capella? What is the deal?
They said they was going to run it back.
Well,
that's what they said.
He was asking for $100 million. They were like, "Yeah, we got you with 60."
Well,
so they're gonna have him for one more year.
He's a $100 million guy in that system.
For real, yeah, exactly.
And that is about it.
Yeah.
Because good luck to you, sir.
Right.
And with that,
but
go ahead, Kev.
I was just gonna say, I think we gotta give some attention to the other side of that trade. I think OKC kind of lucked up. Well, not lucked up, but upgraded in terms of getting a primary ball handler / scorer to go with Russell Westbrook.
If Russ allows it.
Yeah.
that's the key.
Well,
Russ has to allow it.
At a minimum, though, whether he allows it or not, Schrader sort of solidifies the bench for them so that they can get, because honestly, what I was concerned with them trading Carmelo Anthony was that they weren't going to score enough compared to the elite teams in the West. But adding Schrader, he can kind of, go nutty buddy for 23 minutes.
He's not going to get time over Raymond Felton.
He's not on the state prop. That's the state prop point guard.
Why is he still in the league?
He's not on the. Yeah.
Why is he not in prison? Like, he shot at a dude. Like, what's he doing here?
He needs to be with Sheik Louch.
Wow. So we need to hurry up and get out of here fast. We're bringing up old Locks references. That was episode 64, folks, of Confirmation Bias. Thanks for joining us. Remember to follow us on social media on our handle at The League AM, the website, theleagueam.com, Diplomatic Immunity, our blog spot. Please go to it, submit your writings, drop that hot fire, and we will see you next Tuesday.